is that we have to define what kind of nomenclature of degrees are we going to have. Since this act defines one degree, that at undergraduation level, you are going to become a full-fledged psychologist, like they have for doctors, MBBS. But currently we have a system of 2 degrees, bachelor's and master's. And for clinical psychology, there's a system 3rd degree also. So that system has to be changed, or how it has to be incorporated in this act, that has to be defined. And the 4th is about how we are going to deal with the entrance and exit examination. Since if they currently every universities have their own cutoff system or entrance examination system, we are going to have a uniform entrance examination system all over India. And so standards for that entrance examination, because some students have psychology in 12th class, most students don't. So standards have to be defined in that case also. And what are we going to ask in the exam, and is it going to be of national eligibility test type, UGC NET, part 1, part 2, or just psychology, and then licensing examination. And the next is of distance learning, that problem which has been raised by distance students, because and practitioners, those which have those degrees, they are going to be those degrees are going to be invalidated, are not recognized under this law. So what are they going to do? And that is up to them and the ministry. And next is ethical standards, and they are going to be defined, and so that those who don't have appropriate credentials, they can't practice, and those who have appropriate credentials, they practice within their scope of practice. So ethics on that count. And the most important part, I think all this talk is just fluff nonsense if this doesn't happen. Money. So, we already have a Mental Health Care Act, but to implement that act, government has not allocated even 1% of the money, which is required. Like for example, the estimate is like 1 lakh crore that is required. Government doesn't even goes up to 1,000 crore. So we are going to need a lot of money, at least 100,000 crore for implementation of this act, which has to be allocated. Otherwise, this is just law on paper, and its implementation doesn't count. So I think that is it. That's in the brief.
Okay. So when you talk about psychology at the school level, so how much importance it has? So will that also be calculated? Suppose a student who is doing psychology at the higher secondary level.
Yeah.
Would that also be counted?
And that would matter, because it would like we need. For example, in a need you have biology. So if you don't have biology, if you have not read biology, and then you can't even apply for it, and you can't apply for it, and you can't even crack the entrance. And so for people, the students who have psychology in 11th and 12th classes, they are going to be at an advantage. So that has to be considered, and because most students don't have psychology in that class, that has to be considered. And so there's also be going of mushrooming of coaching centers, which is currently at a UGC NET level, that would come down to 12th class level. So that would have also be looked into.
Okay, so there's one, the first question is, can we know what are all the allied fields?
All the allied fields, or allied fields just limited to psychology?
I think it is also there in the FAQ document, right? What are the fields covered?
Yeah.
Okay, so
yes,
yeah,
so
it would be nice, members, if you can avoid the questions which is already there in FAQ. That's why we have sent the document to you earlier. And the next question is some clarity about the state bodies mentioned to be responsible to implement the future action. So basically it is all about the state councils.
Central government has made this law. The central government has made the draft, made the regulation. The commission is going to be a main overarching body, like National Medical Commission, or like All India Technical Council and Education Council. And like in those council and commissions also, it is State Council which is responsible for the implementation. Here in this case also, the State Council will be look after implementation, that whether institutions are of curriculum is of standard, they are implementing supervision criteria, and they have facilities, staff, faculty, whether they have proper internship opportunities, whether they have adhering to minimum hours required, and fees also, and instruction, or other things also. So they are going to have 4 boards basically for all this. One is UG Education Board, PG Education Board, Ethics Board, and one is Accreditation Board. UG PG Education Board will look after after UG curriculum and UG training and all those things. PG after PG curriculum training. Ethics and Registration Board will maintain the state register and also will look after ethical complaints and all, whether someone, for example, a psychologist, a professional violates professional code of conduct and ethics code of conduct. So the action will be taken by the state council. And the last is Accreditation Board, and that will it's like a NAAC currently. So they'll accredit the institution on the basis of their assessment and so through 4 boards they are going to implement these provisions.
Okay. So this if you want to become a member, so you need to become a member of State Council, and also so automatically you will become the member of a National Council, or that is a separate thing?
No, you'll be when your name is on the register of the state register, State Council register, then automatically it will go to the central register.
Okay. Okay. So there's a question like, is the funding going to be from central or state government or on sharing basis? And why 1 lakh crore is required for implementation of this act? This is from our advisory member.
Okay. The first way funding has come from both sources, because it's like currently institutions which are run by center, which will be funded by the center, and we will require more institutions also, both at the state level and central level. For example, central government is funding a scheme to start medical colleges in most of the districts of the country, which are called aspirational districts. So on the same account, we can have, like for example, a NIMHAS-like institute in every state. We are demanding an AIIMS-like institute in every state. The same demand should also come from a NIMHAS-like institute. Many states don't have, like for example, my own state, Punjab, doesn't have a proper NIMHAS-like institute. So, and that has also to be looked into. And that 1 lakh figure, it is an estimate which comes from, there's a paper in Indian Journal of Psychiatry on mental health, on the implementation of Mental Health Care Act. And they estimated that in 2019, I guess, that about 94 crore thousand is necessary for the proper implementation of Mental Health Care Act. So that I rounded off to 100,000 crore, 1 lakh crore. So that's where the figure comes from. It needs to be looked into properly for the entire implementation of the act and just for the implementation of this behavioral health sciences category.
Okay. Could you please explain the provisional registration for existing practitioners mentioned in the act?
Yes, because at the beginning, for about 6 months, there is going to be an interim commission body to just provide a provisional implementation to this act. So when they'll open the registration, so you can anyone who qualifies in the criteria, they can register provisionally, and then that registration will be confirmed after verifying documents and all those things. Because someone who is practicing currently, they can simplify the procedure, and so that they can continue practice under this act. There's why this is the provision. So it is just like a normal registration, just calling it a provisional registration for the verification of credentials.
Okay. So what will be the changes affected by this law?
I think changes we have already discussed in under the first question. Of course, the main changes are going to come from the implementation. If government is going to allocate proper funding, and that also one thing I forgot to mention, there's also this question of appointment of psychologists in these boards and commission. For example, under state mental health authority, in some of the state mental health authority, for example, in my own state, Punjab, instead of clinical psychologist, there is an appointment of psychiatric social worker. So in some states, there is an appointment of psychiatrist in place of clinical psychologist. So we have to also look into that, or that only clinical psychologists are suppose are going to be appointed where they are supposed to be appointed, or in this case only psychologists should be appointed where it's their membership. So that has also that is also going to need to be looked into.
Okay. See again. When you say that it is, what are the ways it's going to be affected? There's no clarity in the act. What will happen to the people who are already in the field for so many years, but still they are not qualified to meet these few criteria which is mentioned in the act. So, for example, distance education.
Yeah.
For example, number of hours. So,
Yeah.
what will happen to them? Because I think you yourself said that in the document, there's not much clarity on that.
Yeah, there's no clarity on this. On the numbers of hours, because it's minimum 3,600 hours, so that are covered under bachelor's and master's, so there is not going to be any issue. But in case of distance degrees, they are not recognized there. So how they are going to practice, and there's it can only be answered by health ministry. I have told so many people who approached me with this concern, and at least dozens of people. I told them write to health ministry, but I don't think anybody has done that. So that's also sort of laziness and on their part. So if you are concerned about your career, please write to health ministry.
Okay. And there is ambiguity about how 3,600 hours will be calculated. Would be great to see clarity in this.
I don't think there is any kind of ambiguity regarding that. It is simply the way we count normal lectures, like RCI counts number of hours, supervision hours, and for example, a lecture of 2 hours will be counted as 2 hours in that. So a supervision of 2 hours per day will be counted, and all this accumulates at the end of the year and at the end of the course. So, that is how we currently count, and that's how we count in medicine also, and that is the system I think going to be continued.
Okay, I think that what the member meant by ambiguity is like it is only the UG and PG, or it is UG, PG plus.
No, that is at a first degree level. So that is how this act is formulated, because it is like physiotherapists, ophthalmic sciences, nutrition sciences, lab technicians, they're also there, and almost everyone works. Starts working after they achieve, they get the bachelor's degree. For example, a bachelor of physiotherapy, bachelor's of nutrition, and bachelor's of all that. So, but psychology is one field where there's a master's degree is the basic minimum criteria. So we are different from that. So as the current states, it is, that's why I said in the future, it is possible that we may have a 5-year one course, and for which we may have entrance, and after 12th class, so so there's a slight ambiguity in that, because so that is also why, because not much attention was paid at the drafting level, and the psychologists did not speak about it. So yeah.
So when you talk about this state council and national council, and you also mentioned about this entry and exit.
Yeah.
So will there be a separate kind of a test or exam to become a member, or it is only based on this qualification and criteria? What is that entry and exit? Okay,
and entry exam is entrance exam. Like for example, currently universities conduct their own entrance exam, or they have cut-off date system for admission in the course. So entry exam is for admission in the course. Exit exam is that like for example, we currently have a NEET, which also work as a license examination for doctors. So say similar kind of exit examination or license examination is planned. And so that which the National Commission will conduct at the national level, both the exams, entry exam also, exit exam also. So after you have done your degree, and then you have to take the licensing exam. After that, when you pass your licensing exam, only that you will be become part of the register. Like currently, RCI does not conduct any licensing exam. They just provide registration, whoever pass MPhil. So that is a slight difference from RCI system in this act.
Yeah. So again, there's a question related to distance education. So the question is like those who have got their degrees through distance education, can they continue practicing? If not, when this rule will be applicable, and any special eligibility criteria that they can fulfill to continue their practice?
Whenever this act is enforced, from that date they cannot practice. So what eligibility criteria, bridge courses, all those things that are not clear at this stage. So, that can be answered by only Health Ministry. Please write to Health Ministry.
So as of now, as per the present act, people who got their degrees through distance education, they cannot practice.
No. It only recognizes only regular distance, regular mode degrees. Yeah, only regular.
Okay. So when you say regular mode, again, there are people who has done their UG regular mode and PG distance. So what is that going to happen for that combination?
I have mentioned that in FAQs also. That is again not clear. Yeah. Again.
Okay. So will the UG and PG course be reframed in some other way?
It is possible. Yeah, it is possible.
Okay. Because Dr. Aparna, she is academic, she is a faculty. So she says that the current UG PG doesn't cover 3,600 hours. So how are we going to look at this? Because they have said that 3,600 and current UG PG doesn't cover.
Okay, can Dr. Aparna explain a bit more? The government's way of thinking is that they estimated that 1 year covers around 1,000 to 1,200 hours.
Yeah. See, I'll tell you the way it is calculated. For example, the PG course is around 75 credits and 1 credit is 15 hours. If you calculate it, it comes to hardly 690 hours. Even if you add some field work and some other hours, it will come to maybe 1,000 hours. At a UG level, you're not going to cover 2,600 hours. So we have done this exercise at TISS to calculate whether the UG PG together, given the number of credits according to the UGC structure, whether it will amount to 3,600, it does not. But in a bachelor's degree of 4 years and a PG, where there is an experiential component and many other things like MBBS courses, then it may amount to. So the calculation that they have done is applicable for those, but not for psychology. No matter how many times you jump, you will not be able to cover 3,600 hours. Is what
okay. Clarification on that. This is for both bachelor's and counting both bachelor's degree and master's degree, and that doesn't cover 3,600 hours.
It does not. It does not.
75.
76 credits are for PG, and your bachelor's, for example, I don't know whether it will have an equivalent kind of this thing. Still, it comes to definitely around maximum 2,000 credits. You can 2,000 hours. It will not go to 3,000. I mean, you will have to be really creative to count every. You have to scrape through every hour in order to show that it's worth 3,600. So
then ours would need to be increased then. Then they would need.
That's why I said that. Does it involve restructuring of BAMA also?
Yes, of course. Yes.
I think that is also there in the act, right? I mean, reframing or restructuring the whole syllabus and curriculum will be also considered.
Yes.
Okay. So this is actually not a question. This is a request to Mr. Ajay. Do you have few papers presented or published on this latest bill from the research point of view? If so, where can I find it? Kindly share. I did check with Google and few journals too.
Okay, I have not published any papers yet on this. Articles are there, which is all almost just about 3,500 word article is there on my website, citizenship.com, PSYTIZEN ship.com, and papers are still in press. So yeah, papers are not out yet.
Okay. Yeah. So the next question is, social workers have a different body to make their work professional, but in this act, psychiatric social workers, clinical social workers are also included. Some clarity about how they can be included in both these bodies.
Psychiatric social workers.
Yeah. Clinical social workers and psychiatric social workers are also included.
Yeah, but there is a slight conflict there because psychiatric social workers are also covered under the Mental Health Care Act, and they can register under the State Mental Health Authority also. And so the conflict is that under this act, the minimum, the maximum undergraduation level it allows is 3 to 6 years. So under this act, anyone who has a 6 years of degree for psychiatric social worker, they can register. But under that act, it is 7 years, MPhil. So that is also a slightly conflict. But they can register under both acts. So that is not an issue.
Okay. Yeah. So, my question to you is, how can association like IAPS prepare for this implementation of this law? Especially, there is a mentioning of supervision, and even in your FAQ document also talks about it, about the inadequacy of supervision in the practitioners as well as in the academic institutes. So, association like IAPS. So what is, how do we contribute, or what would be our role? Especially, maybe we can start with state councils. If, for example, Tamil Nadu or any other state, so it is mandatory they have to form their own councils. So what is the role as an association we can play?
Okay, the first, I think, immediate role is of in the drafting of rules and regulations. So all this which we have discussed, which is not clear, it would be clarified in rules and regulations. So it is done properly. So what we want, and so that's what we get from the government. We require some pushback also there. So whenever those drafts, they would be also like this act, and we would be dissatisfied by them. So we should, I think, have already model draft regulation. So in which we define, for example, Dr. Aparna said that the currently 3600 hours are not covered. So how they are going to be covered in UG and PG? So we already should have all defined. And so all the ethics also, distance learning also, and so how the funding is going to come from, what funding is required, and entrance examination, exit examination. So all the issues which we currently have, they're going to be, they are clarified by the draft regulations. So if associations can already draft model regulations, they can send to the government, even if the government doesn't pay attention. And then when they come out with own draft regulation and they'll ask for public comments, then we'll have already our drafts ready, which we can send to government. And we can point out that this is what you have drafted, and this is which it should be ideally. So that may be the first step. Any other person, their seniors here, they can, if they have anything, other ideas, they can also contribute here.
Yeah, so if someone has done a regular course, UG and PG level degrees, like all, but their degree is a combination of clinical and counseling, how do we categorize them?
Any clinical counseling is all of it. Clinical psychology is already covered under RCI. So if someone is not covered there and not eligible there, they can be covered as counseling psychologist or any specific psychologist under this category. So we still don't have any specialization. Very few institutes like TESS, they have specialization, and all our degrees are mostly a mixture of all the papers. So anything, so that would also need again restructuring, so that there is some clarity and some way out, so the way the students can register after they graduate.
I think we have discussed this in our last panel discussion also. The name of the bill is like Allied Mental Health, but so we are going to call ourselves as behavioral health professionals.
Yeah.
Right. So even that itself is a conflict, right? Act states the name of the act is something, and how we are going to address ourselves. So what is that nomenclature confusion?
The nomenclature confusion is that which I raised was that one act is our Mental Health Care Act. So clinical psychologists are mental health professionals. All other psychologists are behavioral health professionals. How this nomenclature is legally different, and that is the issue. So either all of them are behavioral health, or all of them are mental health professionals. And now the second question which comes is that there is also, we can make this demand, and that other psychologists which deal with mental health, they should be included in the Mental Health Care Act also, and that act should be amended. But the question is that a separate category of behavioral health science would also be needed to be created in the Mental Health Care Act. So that's also another problem. So that's a problem at the conceptual level.
Yeah. So what is the criteria to make expressive therapies like art and movement therapies valid? Because mostly they are only diploma courses.
The criteria is same. So same number of hours, same. If you are diploma, you will be an assistant or associate DMP or art therapist. If you have full bachelor's and master's degree or master's degree, which are mostly from abroad, like University of Roehampton, those kinds of institutes, and those will be full dance and movement psychotherapist, art psychotherapist. So they are again they are included in other healthcare professionals, not behavioral health science professionals. So that is also again a separate subcategory.
Okay. Yes, Devika. Devika, unmute yourself, please.
Yes. Hi, Ajay. I think the association's been in touch with you recently.
Yes, yeah.
Just to add to this, I think Linda ma'am had brought this up last time when we were sort of talking about this, is that also art therapists, expressive arts therapists, dance therapists, a lot of them, the current courses which are there in the country and even abroad, they do not have a compulsion of undergraduate degree of psychology or even psychology papers. So I understand why this could potentially be an other healthcare or other professionals rather than behavioral mental health, even though we work with that primarily. The question is that there are certificate like currently, so we are sort of not wanting to abandon the students that who are currently doing programs and things as well. And I think that goes across for psychology. Is that at least like in expressive arts and art therapy, there are a lot of certificate programs which are between 150 to 300 hours. There are diploma programs which range from 14 credits to like Xavier's has 48 credits, which is 1,000 plus hours at a diploma level. So because diploma is not regulated across the country, is there like a specification within the diploma acceptance also? Because somebody who's done 150 hours and or 300 hours and gets a diploma versus somebody who's done 1,000 hours of training and is still a diploma holder. That is one question, if that's a concern. Second is that the current masters which are coming up in the country, which are expressive arts, or there is a MFA in art therapy, which is sort of like clashing because it's a fine arts degree, but then it talks about therapy, right? They are not like the MFA degree is 33 credits total, a master's which is 33 credits with 3 credits in practicum. There is a current expressive movement therapy masters, which is looking at approximately 40 credits a year, where ethics is an optional elective in their curriculum design. So, like the questions like these are, like obviously we're talking about psychology and programs all over, but these graduates will also go out in the mental health and the behavioral health field. So I think it's something for maybe the government to think about, that how they are looking at addressing these, because these courses are more expensive than psychology courses. Yeah. Like a certificate course is minimum 60,000 plus taxes, right? A diploma course is anywhere between 1.5 lakhs to 2 lakhs or 2.5 lakhs. And a master's is going to be 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs. So even, monetary wise, then are we abandoning the students who are graduating right now and probably not going to be able to meet those hours? Is something maybe, not just for this association, I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about this, but it sort of is, we're looking at it even from like a counseling degree point of view. I know so many students who come from a PG counseling psychology space are now working in organizations. And I don't know if any of y'all have filled this, but 4 years ago, I filled a register, which was a state council, and it came with the link for the first draft. of the mental health bill, of this bill of NCAT, but that link doesn't work anymore. So is there like, because it had the whole, like everything that is asked in the bill, it literally had drop down columns for everything. And I remember filling it very judicially, sitting with my certificates and everything. But after that 1 year, I have not seen, or that it shows error 404 now on that link. So I'm just wondering, 3 questions and 2 just to think about, but 1 if anybody else has filled this register.
So to begin with, on the certificate course, the certificate course will be valid only after you have a minimum criteria done, either a UG degree or PG degree, and 3,600 hours. So if you have, so for example, someone is an engineer and goes to CMTAI and does their certificate course or diploma course, and which you have said is expensive. I have seen that, very expensive, and so that is not eligibility. So they are, that is not going to be recognized. And so also the second, the diplomas are recognized. Diploma has to be minimum 2,000 hours at the entry level, and the PG diplomas and others, since they are add-on, they are not the basic qualification, they are add-ons. So they can be of 1 year, 1,000 hours. So that is allowed. So that will also be defined in the rules, and so that is allowed. And the second is of the minimum hours required. If they currently do not fulfill hours, they have to fulfill hours in future. So the currently still.
Can they do add-on courses to help support the previous graduates or something like that? Or does it have to be from foundational, it has to be that many hours? Because then right now when we are working on curriculum design, we can make sure that we match that much hours.
Yeah, it has to be from foundational.
Okay.
So if someone who has no degree, which is a healthcare degree related to psychology, and they come into psychology, they have to start from scratch. Like you go, for example, we are psychologists, and we want to become a medical doctor. We have to start from NEET to do MBBS. So we can't just do a certificate course in 6 months, a certificate course or 1 year certificate course, and become a medical doctors, which is a practice which unfortunately allowed in psychology, which is we can't continue. And is there anything that needs to be answered?
The register. Did anybody else fill any registers? Because it was a
okay. I don't know what was that, but there was never a government register like that. Government has never done so. I have seen that some other organizations, there is one I have seen on LinkedIn, Counselors Association of India, Counselors Council of India, something. They are giving numbers out, and they are sort of registering counselors, and so that counselors can practice. That is not allowed, and that can't be done. Then, so it simply can't be done. Only under this act, whenever the register is going to be opened, you can register as a counselor.
So shall we go to the next question? Yeah. So will PhD in regular mode and PG in distance mode be considered?
No, PhD is not a regular practitioner degree, so it is not going to consider for practice. Yeah.
Okay. Ajay, your voice is breaking. What did you say last? PhD?
PhD is not a practitioner degree, I said. Yeah, it's
Okay.
a theoretical degree, so it won't be recognized under this. Yeah.
Oh. So the next question, are there provision to establish counseling center, and does it need any permits to do so?
Yes, of course, yeah. And if like, for example, under Mental Health Care Act, we have mental health establishments which are going to be registered with the state mental health authority. Similarly, in this case, you all the centers and all other spaces, hospitals, and they are going to be registered with the state council. So under which board I had said, assessment board, national state accreditation and assessment board. So they are going to be registered with that board.
Okay. Yeah, again, there's a question about distance education. I think this is slightly different because she wants to know, will the government take responsibility for conducting distance mode, which is now considered invalid, right? How can it be redressed? And so can state university bodies pitch into and support?
I try to always answer for one and all, but these questions keep coming up. To every distance degree holder in this country, please write to Dr. Harshvardhan, to Prime Minister Mr. Modi. No one else can answer your queries, and this can only happen if this act is amended. No secretary, if that amendment has to be passed by Parliament, signed by the President. That is the only process. So no minister, nobody else can do that on just an order. So these questions, which also come in my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my Twitter, please write to Dr. Harshvardhan and Mr. Modi, please.
Okay. And what will be the psychology representation in the State Council? How many members? I think even that act very clearly tells that, no, that how many people. So maybe you can.
And in the State Council, the members would be appointed by the state government. It doesn't say how many members from which profession, but the criteria is that in the National Commission, the similar kind would be followed at the state also, that there would be a professional council for every category. President of the professional council and one member from the professional council would be part of the commission. So 2 members from a category. So that theoretically there could be 2 psychologists in the national commission body. So similarly, at state level, there are going to be minimum 12 members of state council. So at least, so they can have their advisory boards. So advisory board may correlate to professional councils. So there may be 2 members, 2 psychologists in an advisory board. So that is the framework that is envisaged in this act.
Sorry, I didn't get the difference between the State Council and the advisory board. If you could just.
Unlike a national commission has a professional council for a category, State Council can have advice. So, for example, they want to have advice on anything, and they want to monitor something related to a particular profession. They can establish an advisory board of members consisting from those professions. So if it relates to psychology, all members from that to the psychology advisory board. Yeah.
So it is a choice, or it is mandatory to have advisory council?
That is optional. That is not mandatory. So yeah, that is optional.
So, it is, so I mean, the state government can take a call.
Yeah, but at national level, it is mandatory.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, psychologists are also standalone professionals. So should they be considered in allied services or have a separate board? See,
For years, I have been talking about national psychology.
What she meant by standalone professionals in the sense, like sometimes psychologists, especially counseling psychologists, when you have your client, it is not necessary they have to go to a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist. Sometimes the problem or issue will be addressed and resolved with the counseling psychologist there itself. So that's what she meant by psychologists are also standalone professionals.
Every person who has a protected title in this can practice independently. So in that sense, it is a standalone profession, and but they are also the aim and objective of this act, with the thinking which goes behind it, which if you read this statement and of objection reasons, it is basically that the medical profession and entire healthcare profession is a team profession. And so some members, most members of the team have been excluded, which needs to be recognized. And that is why this act. So that's what government's idea, that that everything has to happen in a team. But all the protected title, they can practice independently, they can have private practice. So that is not an issue. Like doctors can have their own private practice also and work in as a team in hospitals also. So that is their practitioner's choice.
Okay, but for all these things, basically you have to get registered with the state council as well as the national council.
No. You have to register only with the one.
Okay.
Other thing will happen automatically. You don't have to apply to both. And the registration has to be renewed every 5 years. I should mention.
Okay, so once this act will come into force, so nobody can practice without registering with state council, either with state council or national council.
No. If they practice, there's fine and imprisonment. Yeah.
Okay. So is there a way to apply to help to be appointed on this council?
Is there a way? Sorry.
Is
Sorry?
there a way to apply to be appointed on this council, to be part of the council?
Of course, like currently in the current system, to be appointed to state mental health authority, government invites applications for nominees. The similar system would be followed there also. So they have mostly interviews and all those, but the system, of course, we know in how it works, it that we have someone from our network, which we know someone, so appoint that person. That's how things work in politics and pretty much everywhere. And someone we know qualified. And so that is why I always keep saying that associations and psychologists, they have to be always keep updating themselves with policy matters so that they are in the know of politicians, they are know of policymakers. For example, even when most of the problem, most of the times the problem is this. For example, I'm a member of parliament. There's a bill on mental health. And the point is, but nobody has approached me to lobby with me, and I don't know anybody whom I can approach. Because since I am so busy, that simply slips off my mind, and there's nothing that can be done. So that is why lobbying and all those things are important. That's how you get a foot in the door. So you need to get a foot in the door.
Yeah, so when we talk about state council, there's a question. Suppose we register with a particular state council. So for an example, Tamil Nadu. Can't they shift practice to another state?
Yeah, of course they can. Yeah, not an issue.
So only thing, the registration with the particular, I mean, any state council is important. It's not that you register with Tamil Nadu, you cannot practice in Karnataka, nothing like that.
If you,
Right?
that is not clear. I haven't asked any doctor also how it works in medicine. Can medicine in medicine also you register with the state council, and then you can shift practice anywhere. You can do that. So the similar system is going to be followed. But that is not going to be an issue. If you practice in a state, you can easily move your registration and all your practice to another state. So in that is not going to be an issue.
I think doctors get only one registration number, right? Throughout India. So whether you are which state or irrespective of the state, they get states you live in, you get only one registration number from the
Yeah.
medical council.
Yeah.
So
They get
wherever
from
you
the state
go, you
medical
have to-
council.
Yeah, wherever you go, you have to use that and refer that number. So it doesn't keep changing.
There's a similar thing, but then the similar thing, the process is not defined in this act. The similar process will be followed then. For example, in this case also, it is not that you will get a separate number from central register and separate from state. You'll get only one number. So the same number is on the state central register, same number is on the state. So the only one number all over India.
Okay. Yeah, so what about people who get trained in certain therapies from parent institute? For example, CBT from Beck Institute.
If it is not a qualified degree, it's mostly like a certificate course, it doesn't count. It can be an add-on course after you have done, yeah, but it cannot be a basic course.
Okay. Yeah, Kannan says FAQ document states a professional can practice in any state.
Yeah, they can practice in any state all over India, yeah.
Yeah. So could you tell us one by one, what are the steps involved in implementation of this act and the timeline for the same? So, I mean, literally when this act will come into force?
Okay. When will it be enforced? It is not known. So because enforcement requires many things to be in place. Where currently, which government is government can't focus on due to the pandemic. And so basically the way an act is enforced is this. There are draft rules and regulations. After public consultation for 15 days or for a month, they are revised and published in the Gazette and they are placed in Parliament. So it may take 2-3 months. And after that, there is an interim commission, and interim commission will establish their own guidelines. And then there would be opening of registers, provisional registration, verification of documents, state registration. It may take at least all this procedure, step by step, may take 1 year. The timeline is not known. Timeline will come by when the government tells us.
Okay, so when you say interim committee, so who will be the part of that committee?
They are already mentioned in the act. Mostly bureaucrats will be part of their interim committee.
Okay, so there no psychologists will be there.
No, they'll mostly establish and they lay the groundwork. So then the interim commission will in the meantime, they'll appoint all the psychologists and all the professionals. Then they'll hand over to the permanent commission.
Okay. Yeah. So and by when will we hear about the entrance and exit exams and all those?
It will be in the draft guidelines, and implementation maybe from next year, maybe from next year, and it will take some time, some 1 or 2 academic sessions.
Okay. Yeah, Janki, can you please unmute yourself and you can ask the question directly to Ajay? If you can make the question little precise.
Yeah. I am Dr. Santanam.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah,
Sir,
good evening.
just a moment, sir, because
Yeah, yeah.
there's a long question by Janki, so that's what I asked her to talk to Ajay directly. So if we can make it little precise.
Yes, good evening. Sorry. Sorry for my voice. I'm recovering from COVID. I basically I had known, and I had maybe seen a draft as well, where there were certain psychiatrists here who were trying to pass something similar at the state level here in Maharashtra to make it easier, maybe to have a body, and I believe they were trying to, they had only recognized, I very clearly remember, clinicians in that, and they had said that they should make all therapies and psychologists and everything work only if they are working with psychiatrists. Now, my question is, like ma'am was saying, it's not necessary that all issues are psychiatric in nature or need doctors and, at the school level or whatever. If that is supposedly passed, I'm assuming they had tried to pass it through the state government. I'm assuming the central government act will supersede it and it will not probably, be passed, right?
Okay, I'm not about this particular case, but I'm aware of a National Indian Medical Association. I think in 2019, their president had said that psychologists and all practitioners, they should not work independently. And in their annual conference, he had said that. And that is not government's viewpoint or government's framework on which they have already passed, and so that is not applicable. Psychologists can practice independently, and they can practice in team also. So that is not passed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah, yes, Dr. Santanam.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Ajay.
Good evening, Dr. Santanam.
So thank you very much for your laudable ideas. Actually, if I am wrong, you kindly correct me. Actually, this act has been passed in the parliament.
Yeah.
On 28th March. It has
Yeah.
been published in the Gazette.
Yeah.
Actually, the following act of parliament received the assent of the president on the 28th March 2021. And is hereby published for general information. It has published in the Government of India Gazette.
Yeah.
No, that's what. Actually, still we are not in the draft stage. Already it has
No.
passed.
I'm talking about rules and regulation to be
Okay,
drafted.
rules and regulation. This act has been passed by the.
This act has been passed, and that I have already mentioned. Yeah.
Okay.
We are talking about rules and regulation.
Yeah. Thank you. Another thing, actually, you have done laudable work regarding actually giving 24 FAQ. 24 questions, you have given answer. Hello?
Hello, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I did not count
actually,
it.
this regarding question number 18.
Okay.
Question number 18, will the universities need extra accreditation?
Yeah.
Actually, I want to take the opinion of Madam Aparna Joshi here.
Okay.
When you want to implement this act, say like RCI, the Rehabilitation Council of India, whenever they want to introduce any course, the curriculum will be framed by the particular council. The Rehabilitation Council of India, they are having number of courses related with the special education, related with clinical psychology, related with rehabilitation psychology and so on. This curriculum will be framed by the Rehabilitation Council of India. Just I wanted to know the similar way this National Council will frame the curriculum for psychology at UG as well as PG level. And one more thing, actually, if you see, actually the board, the different boards, one, and the section 29 of this act says,
4 boards, yeah.
29, section 29 of this act says, they are going to have the 4 boards: undergraduate, allied and health education board. Similarly, postgraduate, allied and health education board. My question is whether this board will give the curriculum to the particular educational institute. Say, for example, now, except psychology, except BSc psychology or MSc psychology, what are the professional courses comes under this schedule of this bill? All these courses are being conducted at the medical universities, not in the arts and science colleges. Except psychology is being conducted at the arts and science colleges. In that case, whether that particular department actually should be recognized by this national council or state council to conduct this course, for which, like RCA, if you want to start any course, the RCA course, the RCA will give the curriculum, and the RCA will send the inspectors for inspecting that particular academic institution, whether they are fulfilling all the criteria prescribed by the RCA. Then they have to get the NOC, no objection certificate, from the secretary of that particular department. Similarly, my question is, suppose anybody wants to start a psychology course at present, whether they have to follow all this procedure. What about the institution already they are running this type of courses in various places? How we are going to address all these things? Suppose if from this academic year already, since this act has been passed, any university or any colleges, they want to start BSc psychology or MSc psychology, whether they have to obtain the permission from the national council and whether they have to follow the curriculum prescribed by them. So these are my questions.
Okay. So first we resolved, and second is the under the section 40 of this act. If anyone starts to new department or a new institution, which is called allied and healthcare institution, they cannot start new courses without the approval of state council and commission.
Yeah.
So they cannot do so.
This will be applicable from this academic year?
No. It says from the commencement of the act. That's what we have.
Commencement of the act.
Okay. Yeah, when the act will be enforced, when the commission will be formed, and from the date of commencement.
Okay. So date of commencement of the act. Okay.
Yeah, from the date of the commencement of the act. And the similar, those who are already running institutions, universities, departments, their accreditation and assessment and all the related, that will also be done from the commencement of the act. So there is no commission right now, no interim commission council. So that will follow afterwards. Yeah.
No, that's what actually. If there is any disturbance for the colleges, those who are already running the BSc psychology or MSc psychology, whether they have to get different types of accreditation.
Yes, they will also require accreditation. All the institutions from the allied and UG, allied and health education board, they have to follow the correct standards set by both these boards. If they are offering UG degrees, if they are offering PG degrees, so if they are offering both degrees, so they have to meet the standards of both the boards. And then the professionals assessment and rating board will do the assessment like RCA does. You have mentioned the RCA example, inspection, and so they'll do, and it will be applicable to the current institutions also. So they'll also, like Professor Aparna Joshi said, the current courses do not meet ours in some cases, or maybe in all of cases.
Now,
So they'll also have to step up and upgrade their curriculum. Yeah.
Whether the present the colleges, the arts and science colleges, whether they are able to fulfill the criteria prescribed by the council.
I guess the council has not prescribed any criteria apart from number of hours. I don't think they have commented on what should be the content.
Do it, madam.
Right?
They will do it. Actually, undergraduate allied healthcare education board.
They'll prescribe the criteria.
No, the board may say undergraduate allied healthcare education board under section 29. Similarly, the postgraduate allied health education board, probably they may bring some kind of criteria to run the different types of courses.
Yeah.
In future, they may bring.
Okay,
they may
so
bring some criteria.
Just to
see, actually, if you want to start any course,
just
under Rehabilitation Council of India, the Rehabilitation Council of India, they are prescribing certain norms, certain criteria. The criteria should be fulfilled by the particular educational institute. Then only the RCA will give approval for running that particular course there. Otherwise, no. Now, similarly, in future, probably the undergraduate allied healthcare education board, similarly the postgraduate allied healthcare education board also, they may prescribe a certain criteria, and the existing institution or those who want to have BSc psychology or MSc psychology, they have to invariably fulfill the criteria. Then only they can run the course.
Yeah.
So you mean to say that would be at the national level or state level?
State implementation would be a state
national level as well as state level, madam.
Okay, so if you want to start a course, UG course in psychology in Tamil Nadu, then it comes under Tamil Nadu State Council.
Right.
No, of course, it will be monitored by the State Council, but all the rules and regulation will be given by the State Council. That's what it is my understanding.
Yeah. All basically, like the current scene is that for state mental health authorities, the central government has already posted draft rules, which model draft rules. Okay. So the state government can take those draft rules and modify according to their needs, various states' needs. A similar thing is like Dr. Santanam, you used the word they may probably determine criteria. It is not even probably, they will do it. Like it says right here, that the board shall determine the standards of allied education at the graduate, postgraduate level, and super specialty level, develop competency based on dynamic curriculum content, review institution standards against norms, faculty development, approval of courses, and recognize institutions and all those. So they are going to do this. So yeah.
Good, very good. Thank you.
In that regard, there's one question that at present, UG in psychology is not mandatory to get admission for PG psychology, regular mode, in many of the universities. So what about them?
I think that is not even mandatory in DU also, where I studied. So, that is again not clarified. But the point is that at undergraduate level, it states that you have to have an allied in healthcare qualification at undergraduate level. So that is a slightly conflict of interest, not a conflict between what is framed and what is reality. So how they are going to handle this, that's also we have to know.
Okay. So yeah, will there be a common syllabus framed across the country? I think we have already discussed. So it looks like there will be a common syllabus, or we have to do as per the guidelines given by the National Council.
Exactly.
So yeah. Any questions? Anyone wants to ask any questions directly to Ajay or even Dr. Santana? Okay, so Ajay, on behalf of IAPS, I wanted to ask this question since as I have asked you already, since there is a mentioning of supervision, and we as an association, one of the association, as far as I know, who works towards I mean, making supervision as a mandatory requirement. So how do we, can you give us some direction, or how do we go about it? Suppose in terms of state council, right? So how do we do the how do we represent, or what is that we have to do from our side? So what are the way we can bring this supervision and this mandatory, or make it more visible?
So at this time, since it is regulation are to be drafted, so it is not at the state level stage also. It is at national stage. So we regular representation applications and all our comments have to be given to National Health Ministry. So and so that, as I already said, the beginning can be made from drafting our own regulations. The regulations are already how to be drafted, and all those, they are already available for other, for example, Mental Health Care Act for 2017. We already have regulations for them. On the similar lines, regulations can be drafted for this also. So what are the going to be requirements, all those? So like, for example, medical commission regulations also. So we can look, read those regulations, and similar regulations, we just need the format, the legal format which they use. And so
how do we access, or where do we access these regulations?
These are available online.
Online.
Because they are published in the Gazette of India, so they are available online. So I can even send the links also.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Helpful.
Yeah. So.
So yeah. So any other questions? Any more questions? You can unmute and you can ask.
I am Aparajita Bharadwaj, and I want to just put in my views. Psychology is such a varied, it's a very vast and a varied area. So it needs, people who are very specifically into this field. They would be the most appropriate people to be able to formulate the regulations and etc. So I think at national level we need to have that kind of a representation, because you have pure psychologists, you have developmental psychologists. So there is also a confusion regarding that, So like I come, my field is developmental psychology, but I have come from what you call as BSc Home Science, MSc Home Science, MPhil Home Science. But by the time it was called Home Science, but now they call it Human Development. The name has changed. But we are into mental health right from UG level, PG level. So where do we fit in? So those kind of confusions and clarities need to be, ironed out, because you have a whole lot of people who are practicing in these kind of areas. So that is my understanding, that it is a very, very varied kind of thing, and overlapping kind of a area. So this needs absolute clarity. So how do we handle that? So I just wanted your views on that.
We're looking for my views on that, ma'am.
Yeah. Anybody who can answer this. So
I think there are a lot more experienced people for this question on this. I think I'll leave. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Dr. Vasuki may answer this, huh?
Shall I answer?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Madam, actually, I am deviating little bit from your view.
Okay.
Say, for example, 10 years back, this actually horizontal degree. Horizontal degree, those who have done BSc chemistry or BSc physics, BSc zoology, they have done MSc psychology or MA psychology those days. I mean, when I was a student, even my professors, they are having cross majors. They have done some degree in their UG level, and of course they have done their PG in psychology, and they got a doctorate, and they became academicians. It was prevalent up to 2000, I think.
Okay.
Afterwards, UGC clearly mentioned that cross major is not at all allowed, even in the school level. In the school level, suppose, for example, one who has done BSc chemistry, for example, BSc chemistry and BA, she or he can work as a science teacher in the school. Suppose that person has completed MA English, and he cannot become a PG teacher because he does not have UG in English. His UG is in science, whereas PG is in English. He can work as a science teacher, but he cannot work as a postgraduate teacher in English. Similarly, it is applicable. Even it is actually now very strictly they have implemented this. Cross major is not at all allowed. Even in the college level, those who have done BSc in some stream, and they have done MSc in some stream, they are not at all allowed to enter as a college teacher. The cross major, qualified in cross major, they are not allowed to work as a college teachers. Vertically, they should have the degree.
Okay.
Say, for example, BSc psychology, MSc psychology. Then only they can have the professional
pure degrees.
Yeah. This is the norms prescribed by the UGC.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand
I
that.
wanted to clarify
all
your
in a
doubts.
fix.
That's what I want to tell all these things to you.
Oh no, okay. I'll talk to you on this personally.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So, right.
Yeah. So any other questions related to the act? There are few other academicians also. Dr. Linda is here. Dr. Linda, you would like to say anything or ask anything? Okay. Yeah. So, Mr. Rajini? Rajini, can you close the session?
Thank you, Vasagi. I can, but I'm not still clear. So much of confusion is there. So much more clarity is required. Right?
Yeah.
So I can thank Ajay Gulzarji for his time and for his patience. He has been answering so many questions. He has sent us the FAQs also, and some of the questions came from that. In spite of that, he answered them. So the clarity that he has given us is that we as counselors, we need to register with the state council.
Yeah.
The starting is there. You register, provisional registration, and then with all the documentation, accreditation and all that, after that checking, you can become, you can be registered with the state council, which means automatically you are registered with the national council. But the whole act for it to come into force will take some time because there's whole lot of ambiguity is there. First itself, Gulzarji said about the title of the professional, whether you are a health psychologist, you are a forensic psychologist, the title itself needs to be, the scope has to be determined so that the person who is working sticks to those credentials, works under those credentials. So that has to be first determined. And then of course the whole course, the curriculum, everything needs to be, I think, sorted out because they require 3,000 600 hours, which is not there now. So again, from the basic level itself, we need to start working. And the place where IAPS, because supervision is being mentioned in the act, so where IAPS can contribute would be to form the help in forming the rules and regulations, which we can take from the medical regulation act, which is there available. We can use that as a springboard for us, and IAPS can form some of the rules and regulations properly and give it to the relevant authorities, so that supervision part of it is taken care of. Again, Gulzarji was mentioning that those who have done distance education will have to write directly to the health minister and to the prime minister. I don't know when that can happen regarding the conditions that are happening now. So there is a lot more work to be done. It is not just psychologists. There are a lot more other professionals, social, psychiatric social work, all these professionals, we need to work together. So that
Rajani, just to add here, I forgot to ask this question to Ajay. So there should be a separate council for councillors. There'll be a separate body for councillors. Is it anything like that? No? Okay. So there's some confusion and there are people talking like that. So that's what I just wanted to clarify.
It is madam, for your information, it is a private limited company.
So what do you mean by private limited company?
It is a private one. It is not recognized by any body.
Okay.
That Councillors Council of India, and that is a primary.
That's what I'm telling you. It is a private company.
Yeah, it is a private company. Then that is not a government body.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. It is not comes under either state government or any central government.
No. My question is like psychologists, counselors, those who have no psychology background. They have done their counseling degrees and they can call themselves as counselors.
No.
Right? So counselors or psychotherapists. So do they have a separate council or?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. They will be persecuted.
Oh, strong words.
yes.
So because it's a the basic thing is all these institutes which offer this distance education, it is all recognized by Government of India. Okay, so now all of a sudden saying it is not valid or you cannot practice, I think it's a very, for many years they are doing this and it is well recognized by the Indian government. So there are few institutes, me and Dr. Santanam, we have spoken about it a lot. So I'm not talking about that. There are well recognized institutes recognized by Government of India. Now all of a sudden distance education is not counted or you cannot practice.
See, madam, actually I want to take 1 minute of your time. Actually, this is information to Mr. Ajay Kulsar also. If I am wrong, you kindly correct me, Mr. Ajay. Actually, in this council, no member from UGC is included. Whether I am right?
I think there is one.
No, actually, they have included many people from different organizations. JIPMER, AIMS, Rehabilitation Council of India.
Okay, you are right. Yeah, there is no one.
Nobody, no representation from UGC. I read this act many times.
I think in the last panel discussion itself, I think Ajay and Dr. Shilpa, all of us agreed that there is no proper representation.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, they are the ultimate authorities to regulate all the courses in India, the University Grants Commission. But as actually, I am wondering why there is no representation from UGC side regarding this bill is concerned.
If I can add here, the government is also considering restructuring of UGC. So they are awarding all the accreditation, assessment and regulation powers to independent regulators like this one, Medical Commission and all those. And UGC will only be a grants commission. And they will call it Higher Education Funding Authority, HEFA. And that will become a Higher Education Funding Authority only. Correct. So that's why they are not including UGC in many new laws and regulations also.
I totally agree. But actually, even in order to implement this act, we need a lot of funding.
Yeah.
Who will give the funding, whether the health ministry will give the funding or the UGC will give the funding. There are so many, as Madam said, actually Rajini Madam said, there is a lot of ambiguity in this.
Yeah, of
Still
course.
we are not very clear who
Of
will
course,
be the funding agent.
Yeah, of course. That is why I say, Malab, don't take an active interest and engage with ACT also, engage with government also. Don't just become a recipient. The government will make this law. And when Professor Rajini started with registration, I was afraid of that happening. That we are only care about registration and we get registration, and that's it. And we are not going to care about anything else.
We need not worry about the registration process.
Yeah.
We need not worry about the registration process.
Look, for example, I am not going to become a registered psychologist. I am not a practitioner. But I still get sleepless night over this act.
Yeah, Ajay, we all are, many of us are practitioners.
Yeah.
Really
That's what, madam. That's what I am actually acknowledging. That's what I am acknowledging with Ajay. We need not worry about this act at present. It will take time.
Yeah.
It will take time.
Actually, Dr. Vasugi, if you remember, Dr. Philip had said that we cannot just be counselors and psychologists. We also need to be political activists. If we need to make some headway in our, like they have done, if we want to bring in regulations and licensing, and for our own benefit, we will have to be actively involved. So
Right.
this act gives us a lot of scope for that. So all of us who are seniors in the field, I think we need to put our
networking,
heads
as
together.
actually
Yes,
even Ms.
and
Ajay said, networking is
Just
very,
to
very
give
important.
information to Ajay, because he's not aware of the model that we use, the Rise Up supervision model. The Rise Up, it is a acronym. So the last word P stands for private practice. So the supervisors, one of the responsibility is to educate the supervisee on their policies, latest policies and what's happening, and clarifying. You cannot say as a supervisor, no, I am not aware of this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So this is one of that component. One of the responsibilities. I mean, as a supervisor, you need to take care of that. You cannot say I'm a supervisor, I can only talk about the clinical work and other aspects. No.
Yeah.
So in that way, the Rise Up model, that's what we say. No, it's a template which covers the all aspects. I'm sorry, Rajini, I have interrupted.
I think I will
that
end
is a
here.
cool.
I think I will also end here. Thank you so much, Ajay Gulzarji, for your time, patience, and for the fund of knowledge that you have shared with us, and for honestly agreeing that there's a lot of ambiguity and a lot more clarity is required. And thank you for kind of showing us the path, the way that we can also contribute in some way, we can also make a difference. Thank you so much, Gulzarji.
And
Thank you,
Ajay,
thank you.
just making an open statement, definitely we will disturb you while drafting the drafting the document and all those things which we may send to the government. So definitely we need your support and guidance. Definitely we will come back to you.
Sure, please. Yeah, I also want to draft, but I need a lot of time, which only other can. I don't have much.
Yeah. So we are recording this and we are trying to make it as a YouTube video. So once it is ready, the link will be shared by you and it will be open for public. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Santana.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, members, for being
Thanks,
present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you for being present, members.
You, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Top, people are leaving.
Hi, Prabjit. How are you?
Very fine, ma'am. Recovering from COVID.
Okay.
We
In a
were
way-
all,
in a way, you should feel relieved. You all
yes,
finished that.
but
Yeah.
my mother-in-law is not well. She's hospitalized right now.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So, and she's quite aged and quite critical. So in the middle, I was just